Good morning. Welcome to everyone near and far. Welcome to our new friends. Welcome to everyone who's been meditating with us for a while. It is such a gift to be able to gather together in the light. So we have been all along meditating on today's meditation topic, which is love and affection. And so I'm just reminding us, and if anyone joined later, introducing us to a teaching from Lahiri. Lahiri says, do Kriya with love and affection. So meditate with love and affection. And that right there, I could stop now. I will go on to share a few more words, but I could stop now. And the reason for that is something shared by Yogananda, a very, very sweet realization from his student days. And it's such a tender recognition and expression. He says, I knew that I had found God when I would meditate in the morning, and then throughout the day, beneath the level of the conscious mind, quiet, subtle guidance would appear. That's it. That's also it right there. So if we do Kriya with love and affection, if we meditate with love and affection, what happens is we give ourselves the gift of connecting with the spiritual sunshine that lives and breathes and moves and dwells and has its being through all of us. And so then that current of divine energy, that current of divine caring, the divine kindness, the divine wisdom, the divine inventiveness that can only be shared through each of us, because each of us has this particular song, this particular frequency, this particular vibration or energy that can only be shared through each of us, right in the midst of our daily lives. So not separate from our humanness, not separate from our relationships, not separate from our emotions, not separate from whatever it is that we're experiencing in our families or our workplaces or our lives or our world. Right there in the midst of it, it's just that quiet, subtle guidance will be with us. And so we give ourselves the gift of meditation, and then this current of awareness gives us a gift throughout the day, ongoingly. And then we meditate again in the evening, and that current of awareness carries us off to sleep at night and is working very subtly and quietly, often at levels the conscious mind is not aware of, to give us strength, to give us connectedness with our own wholeness, to help us transform whatever it is that we are here to transform. And so there are so many gifts and scriptures and meditations and teachings that we can meditate on today. We'll see which of them it is possible to share in the time that we have together. We've been meditating on generosity, and this is directly connected to connecting with the current of love and affection in meditation, and then it arises spontaneously. We don't have to reach for it. If we've meditated in the morning, we get to be quiet and simple and clear and still and aware and available. And then what happens is that quiet kindness, that wisdom, that insight will shine through us wherever we are. So I'm smiling and laughing because I think it was just this morning I came across a teaching from Swami Nityananda that made me burst out laughing. And this is just to acknowledge that in the midst of human life, things can be very loud and noisy sometimes. And so what he says, and one of the reasons I love this teaching is because there's so much humor in it. And there's also a little bit of, I guess I'll call it a sword of discernment, which will, if we allow it, to sever us from identifying with the noise of the world. And so that's true. Like whether the world is shouting adulation or whether the world is throwing rocks and shouting insults, it severs our identifying with that as the source of happiness, and it reminds us that eternal happiness is always here. And so this teaching, keep it in your back pocket and let it make you laugh next time you need a laugh. He says, it's like the dog howling at the moon. Can't we be more like the moon? When the dog howls at the moon, does the moon howl back? So just remind yourself, when the dog howls at the moon, does the moon howl back? And then, so basically, if you carry on with that teaching, allow it to unfold within you, the moon carries on being itself, regardless of whether the dog is howling at the moon or not. And the moon, as it carries on being itself, is simple and pure and quiet, and it shares light. So it allows light to reflect from it. The moon doesn't have to create the light or reach for the light. The moon just has to let itself be itself, and the light will share. And so this is true for every single one of us. And it can give us a sort of confidence and a sense of peace and a sense of faith and a sense of inner security if we just remind ourselves. I mean, there's an aspect of every human that sometimes is the dog howling at the moon. So let's acknowledge that also. But by far, the greater aspect of all of us is the moon, which has no need to howl back when the dog howls at the moon. And so just to use that as a mnemonic and as a gift of laughter and as a gift of self-remembrance wherever you are. And that will help us enjoy the gifts of generosity in the midst of our daily lives. And so a couple of other teachings that are about generosity, one of them comes courtesy of the Buddha, the one who is awake. And so this is awakeness, which is present and available within each one of us, sharing this teaching for each of us. And the teaching is that generosity shares with delight before, during, and after giving. And so that's a wonderful index or indicator just to use for yourself. Am I sharing with delight before, during, and after giving? And you'll notice what arises spontaneously along the way. In order to share with delight before, during, and after giving, you will be sharing without looking for any particular result. You will be sharing unconditionally. You will be sharing no matter what response or non-response arises in the realm of time and space. And so just to remind ourselves, that generosity lives and breathes and has its being within each of us. So we can consciously connect with it and then just say to the divine grace, please share generously with delight before, during, and after giving throughout my day. Everywhere that I am, share generously before, during, and after giving. And you'll notice what happens is that too is a sword of discernment that severs our identification with the consciousness of pain, and that also severs our attachment to expecting or looking for or asking for or seeking a particular response or result. So this is in line with a teaching from Swami Nityananda, and he says, embrace the great stillness, the creative spirit, the power of love and compassion. They are already within you. You will swell with gratitude to be in the midst of life, even though death is always present. In the midst of joy, even though there's much suffering in this evanescent world. In the midst of it all, there's all-compelling love that inspires you to new creativity, new insights, new hope, new gratitude, new uplifting impulses, born of your recognition. Life is for the sharing. And now you realize that has been the secret all along. Share what you receive, and you will have abundance to share ongoingly. Now choose love and embrace every experience in your life. Now you rise to a heroic proportion and nurture the divine within you. And you can probably feel just like the absolute love and strength that shares itself through those words, just absolute spiritual support and caring that shares itself through those words. So the words are just a vehicle to connect with the consciousness that is sharing through the words. So allow yourself to receive that gift of that consciousness that is sharing through the words. And this reminds me of a story that I think I came across it the first time, not this most recent week, but the one before that. And this is a story, as I tell it, I may cry. If I do, it is tears of love. And you will understand why one might experience tears of love in relation to this particular story. So this is a story that is set in human history approximately 100 years ago, so first half of the 20th century. And it's set in a colony, and the colonial administrators in this colony decided that the best approach to take to people who were experiencing a medical condition and who had what we would now call physical disabilities would be to confine those people, to basically imprison them, and then to deport them from their home to an island. And they would not be able to escape from that island. They would not be able to leave that island. The night before, 2 of these beautiful humans who were about to be deported were deported. 2 of these beautiful humans worked together by sharing the gift of life. They managed to escape together. And I just want to share with you, this is the part that will make you weep. One of them had no eyes, and the other had no ankles and no feet. They looked at this, and one of them said, "I have eyes. I can share my eyes with you." The other one looked at their situation and said, "I have ankles. I have feet. I can share my ankles and feet with you." And so they worked together, and one was the eyes for both of them, and the other was the ankles and the feet for both of them. And that was how they managed to escape. And so for each of us, this is one of the purest forms of sharing that any of us is asked to do, to look at ourselves in honesty and to say, what is it that I have to share? Do I have eyes that I can share? Do I have ankles and feet that I can share? And look what becomes possible when we share what we have to share at that basic, pure, simple level. We find freedom together, and it would not otherwise have been possible. We find friendship, we find community, we find connection, we find affection, we find our way home. And it would not otherwise have been possible. But that is what is possible if we open our hearts to one another and we work, even in the most humanly impossible situations, to create pathways, to create connection, to share in the simplest way. I have a pair of eyes. How can they help? I have ankles and feet. How can they help? And how can they contribute to community and connection, to freedom, to finding our way home in ways that otherwise would not be possible and would not be available? And what we find then, as we work on that level of respect, that level of seeing what is available for every one of us when we look beyond surface judgments, what we find is that the structures that would otherwise condemn and confine and judge and imprison, they're not possible to stand. They fall. In the light of love, they naturally fall. And so as each of us individually and together collectively step forward to say, what have I to share? And how may this contribute to helping the all of us enjoy freedom and connection and find our way home? What happens then is we create in love rather than in fear. And so we build cities of light. We build cities of kindness. And we find that we are at home wherever we go. And we find that everyone that we meet, they are our family. They are our friends. They are our community, even if we are meeting them for the first time. And so that also is why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, the voice of light, the voice of playfulness, the voice of pure love, the voice that is the energy of solution, that focuses on what is healing and helpful and hopeful, that voice within each of us says to each of us, "Thou art my dearly beloved." And again, right there, that would be enough right there. So to actually allow the divine, and this is why we were meditating as we did at the opening. So I open my heart. I allow the divine to gaze into my heart. As we offer that meditation ongoingly, and I encourage you to enjoy it and to offer it ongoingly, what happens is we directly feel the way we are dear to the divine, the way we are beloved by the divine, the way our ideal supports us, cherishes us, nurtures us. We will also feel, so if this process of opening our heart is painful, we will also feel what it is that we have been carrying around our human heart. So if we've been carrying human grief, we will notice that. If we notice that, just offer it to the current of divine love. If you like, place it on the altar of light. Or if you like, just offer that to the divine gaze. I open my heart. I acknowledge I have been carrying grief around my human heart. I offer that too to the divine gaze. And what happens is the light of awareness transforms that grief with no effort on your part at all. And so our part is to continually open the heart and to continually say, I open my heart, I allow the divine to gaze into my heart. And then whatever it is that you notice, it might be resistance, it might be jealousy, it might be resentment, it might be stubbornness, it might be frustration. Whatever it is that you notice, it might be stress. Whatever it is that is other than that pure, simple, sweet spiritual sunshine, just offer anything else into the divine gaze as often as it takes. And what happens then is that radiant wisdom, that radiant gladness, that radiant good humor shines through us more and more and more steadily. Every breath, every moment, every thought, every word, every choice that we make. I actually invite you to keep your eyes closed if you like. Just allow yourself to keep opening the heart and allowing the divine to gaze into your heart. I'm going to share a couple of very, very quick responses to some questions that people have asked explicitly or implicitly lately. So they will be of service to more than the one who asked. So one person asked, and I share this question with great good humor, if we are perfection, which we are, why aren't we just kicking back, enjoying perfection? What are we doing here? And so, first of all, just sympathy and good humor and laughter and yes, and even Swami Premananda asked that question in his prayers. He says, what am I doing here in time and space? So you're not alone if you're asking that question. So this is going to be a brief response. And we can talk about this ongoingly if you have further questions. But one way to answer this, and this is the truth. If I said to you, so I have this friend going through a rough patch right now, and I need someone to volunteer to run a 5-minute errand on their way home that will allow me to help my friend. Is there a single one of you that would not say, of course, I'll go. 5 minutes on the way home and it'll help somebody? I'll go. Okay, so keep that in mind from the perspective of your soul and your eternal beingness. Your whole human life is a 5-minute stop on the way home. And that is the truth. So the other day I met a 101-year-old, respectable length of lifespan for a human. She too, she's here as a 5-minute stop on the way home to be helpful. Of course, like who among us would not say absolutely? 5 minutes? Of course I'll help. So from the perspective of your soul, this is your 5-minute stop on the way home. So as much as you can, have a sense of humor, have a sense of joy, have a sense of willingness and playfulness, and just a sense of divine remembrance. That basically your soul has got this, always. No matter what it is that is happening in your life, no matter what it is that's happening in the world, your soul has got this. And then I want to acknowledge that from within, experiencing that 5-minute stop on the way home, it can feel like a really long time sometimes in the realm of time and space. And so this is an answer to questions implicitly asked by people who are experiencing stressors, so that could be like physical or emotional or in relationship or anywhere, or who have loved ones who are experiencing stressors. And again, that can be on any level. So one of the really direct ways to be very helpful, as soon as you notice a fear thought arising in yourself in relation to yourself or your loved one, just offer this prayer. Thank you, Divine Grace, for seeing my dear one, myself, all of us, remaining joyfully, joyfully, joyfully in embodiment, as long as is humanly and divinely possible, enjoying every moment of our time in embodiment. And so again, that right there just goes very directly to the solution, and it helps melt away fear. So anytime a fear thought arises, just offer that and replace the fear thought with that. And it will also guide you if there are things that you can do that are helpful, like lending a human pair of hands in any way. It will guide you and prompt you, like in what ways you might offer lending a helpful human pair of hands. Remember as well that very often it is our beingness that is most of assistance and most support. So I'm not saying don't offer your human hands, please do. But also remember that the gift you really are offering, even when you're offering your human hands, the deeper gift is the beingness, is that love, is that affection, is that awareness, is that connection, is that community, is that sharing life, is that creation of freedom, is that finding our way home together. So another thing, and I'll just give like several different examples on this. Say that you or a dear one is experiencing any form of unsteadiness. A way to kind of cut through identifying with the unsteadiness and moving toward the solution of healing is to say the divine is always steady in my dear one. And for yourself, the divine is always steady within me. And to say that as often as you need. And so if you have a dear one who's experiencing doubt, the divine is always clarity and peace and optimal forward movement in my dear one. And what that does, again, is directly go to the energy of solution, which severs our identification with the consciousness of pain. severs our identification with the problem, and opens us to the energy of the solution. So none of this bypasses the freedom of choice that every individual exercises, and none of this bypasses the freedom of each soul to experience the fullness of, Swami Shankarananda used to call them life's contrasts. But this will help us, step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice, thought by thought, word by word, deed by deed, be fully present, bless you, fully kind, fully caring, fully connected, fully responsive, fully available and present, and able to share, these are my eyes, these are my ankles and my feet. That's what I can share right now. Is it hopeful? Is it hopeful? How can we pool together the gifts that each of us have to share? Noticing that even if we don't know what it's going to look like, what we gain then is love, affection, friendship, community, connection. We also gain freedom, and we gain a way home. Thank God, and God bless us all.